Minglaba and welcome to MI Radio's Myanmar Today. I am Aga Jo. Today we reports on 4th session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong kicks off. COVID-19 loan to be provided to businesses for a second time. Fear for COVID-19 outbreak emerges again from Sittway resident. China's booming live streaming platform helps economy recovery. All of that on this edition of Myanmar Today. But for now, let's take a look at what's happening in local news. The 4th session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong began with an opening ceremony on the first day at the Myanmar International Convention Center 2 in Naypyidaw yesterday. The opening ceremony was attended by President U Win Myint, State Councillor Daw San Suu Kyi, Vice Presidents U Min Sui and U Henry Bentiu, ပြည်သူ့လွှတ်တော် Speaker U Dikhon Myat, အမျိုးသားလွှတ်တော် Speaker Man Win Kain Tan, Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Senior General Mae Aung Hlai, Deputy Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Vice Senior General So Win, အမျိုးသားလွှတ်တော် Deputy Speaker U A Ta Aung, Union Ministers, Union Attorney General, Chairman of Naypyidaw Council, Chairman of Peace Commission, Senior Tamil Officers, Commander of Naypyidaw Command, Deputy Ministers, representatives of Luto and Tamil members, patrons, chairpersons, vice chairpersons, and representatives of political parties and the NCA's EAOs. A relief flight of Myanmar Airways International landed at the Yangon International Airport yesterday night, bringing back a total of 164 Myanmar citizens who were stranded in Malaysia. The Ministry of Labour, Immigration and Population, the Ministry of Health and Sports, and local officials helped the returnees for health inspections and arranged for 21-day quarantine. To bring back the Myanmar citizens who are stranded in foreign countries by relief flights and charter flights in accordance with instructions from National Level Central Committee on Coronavirus Disease 2019, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs cooperated with the relevant ministries and Myanmar embassies from respective countries. The local residents in Budalin Township are growing banana with the use of water irrigated from river pumping projects in Budalin Township of Monyar District, and this project has created jobs for the villagers to enable the latter to earn daily income, according to the wage laborers. Previously, the farmers were growing the crops depending upon the rainwater. After the government has implemented the river pumping project, the local farmers can enjoy a sufficient supply of irrigation water to grow the banana plants. So the banana cultivation has created job opportunities for the local villagers who are now earning the daily income. That's all the local news. Now we'll move on to our first report. The 4th session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong is to take place from the 19th to 21st of August at Myanmar National Convention Center in Naypyidaw, and the opening ceremony was held in the morning of the 19th of August. The President, State Councillor, Vice Presidents, government officials, Tamil officials, EAOs that signed MCA, political parties, and invited guests attended the ceremony. Thora Suisi has more.
The opening ceremony of the 4th session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong kicked off at Myanmar National Convention Center 2 in Naypyidaw on 19th of August. Those present at the ceremony were President of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar, U Win Myint, Chair of National Reconciliation and Peace Center NRPC State Councillor Daw San Suu Kyi, Vice Presidents U Min Sui and U Henry Bentiu, Speaker ofပြည်သူ့လွှတ်တော် U Dikhon Myat, Speaker of အမျိုးသားလွှတ်တော် Man Win Kain Tan, Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Senior General Mae Aung Hlai, Union Ministers, Government Officials, NCA-signed EAOs, leaders and representatives, political parties, ambassadors, and invited guests. After the performance of the song entitled Essential Peace, Necessary Peace by a group of peace youth from Kaya State, State Councillor Daw San Suu Kyi delivered her opening remark.
ငြိမ်းချမ်းရေးကိုတည်ဆောက်ကြတယ်ဆိုတာပြည်ထောင်စုကောင်းကျိုးတိုင်းရင်းသားပြည်သူတွေရဲ့အနာဂတ်ကိုဆောင်ကျဉ်ပေးတာတဲ့ပို့မို့သားလိုပါတယ်
Peace building is beyond better future of the union and the citizens. Peace building does not mean just the ceasefire of the conflicts. It has to completely cut off the wrong political culture of weapons and armed force being only effective and successful mean. The end of the political belief of depending on weapons and armed force, and the end of what makes this spirit can only be the successful peace building. We have to build the new culture of making concessions. Our country has already suffered over 70 years of internal conflicts, which led to direct and indirect impacts. During over 70 years, we had faced with losses worth of trillions of jets, and the future and lives of the citizens had vanished. We are now here at the junction and we have two ways to choose. Will we keep walking that wrong path, or will we choose the new path of peace building? Whatever we choose, I want to think of the next generation of ethnic youths of our country who will be living in our future union.
State Councillor also mentioned about the peace processes beyond 2020, which include national reconciliation and internal peace building, democratic transition and establishment of Federal Union and amendment of the Constitution. After the speech of the State Councillor, Commander-in-Chief of Defense Services Senior General Panglong, Chairman of Restoration Council of Shan State, General Yusit, and Shan Nationalities League for Democracy Vice Chairman Wen Sai Nyunlun also delivered the remarks. Chairman of Restoration Council of Shan State, General Yusit, expressed.
During the
past sessions of the Union Peace Conference, as we failed to compromise and as we still had doubts between two sides, it was not possible to develop the agreements of the Union Peace Accord as much as expected. We have to prepare for betterment in the future from learning these past experiences. If we look at the history, there were armed conflicts because they were not intended to solve the politics by political means. But now we're on the way of keeping on holding peace dialogues and meetings. After several discussions, we have advanced the Phase 3 of Union Peace Accord, which is to be presented at this conference. In the future, we have to work together to overcome the challenges and difficulties to implement the NCA for ensuring long-lasting peace.
In October of 2015, 8 ethnic armed organizations EAO signed for National Ceasefire Agreement (NCA), and in February of 2018, 2 more EAOs became their NCO signatories. The first session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong was held in 2016, the second session in 2017, and the third session in 2018. The fourth session has been in progress from 19 to 21st of August 2020.
That's the report on 4th session of the Union Peace Conference 21st Century Panglong kicking off. After the first loan of the 100 billion checks from COVID-19 fund was provided to over 3,000 businesses to remedy the impacts posed by the COVID-19, the government is to provide the second-time loan to 9 main sectors. The applicants for the second-time loan program have already reached over 10,000, and the second-time loan program will be provided at 3 time slots. Jenai, Someang, and Tora Suisi has more.
To remedy the impacts on economy posed by the COVID-19, the government is working for different solutions, and one of them is to provide the enterprises with a loan. The COVID-19 fund was established from which the loans are granted to the businesses to continue operation and employment. The first loan of 100 billion just was provided to 3,393 businesses out of 4,250 proposals. The first prioritized businesses were like the food supplies, the manufacturing, and hotel businesses. The first-time loan was given to 80% of total applicants, with the average of 30 million just for each. And now the government is to provide second-time loan program for 9 main sectors, which are agriculture, livestock, fisheries, export, import substitution, supply chain, food production, job agency, and vocational schools. Wu Wen, General Secretary of the UMFCCI, added more information about the loan.
အဓိကတော့ဒီတစ်ခေါက်မှာရှောက်လာပေါင်းကျွန်တော်တို့1000ကျော်ပေါ့နော်လက်ခံရရှိပါတယ်
Till now, about 10,000 applications are submitted. Out of the states and regions, ARD region, Bago region, and Sakai region have the most submitted applications, and the least is Chen State. There are 4 steps to give approval to the applicants. At present, about 6,000 to 7,000 have been scanned, and 1,000 perfect applications have sent to the first step review. Most of the applicants are from food production, agriculture, and livestock. We are expecting to provide the loan for the first batch of the second loan program at the beginning of September. For the whole loan program, it is expected to take about 2 months. One of the challenges for the enterprises when applying loan is that some cannot show the specific business license or procedures so that they became ineligible for the loan.
Since the pandemic has posed the severe impact nationwide, it is difficult to cover all the affected businesses in the whole country. However, it still have impacts on the enterprises provided with the loan. U Amin, Secretary of Market Research Association, added his suggestions on the loan program.
ထုတ်ပေးတဲ့ပမာဏပေါ့နော်ပမာဏဆိုတာကျပ်ဘီလီယံ100ဆိုတာကတော့သူကနိုင်ငံတော်အဆင့်နဲ့ရှိတွင်းရှင်တော့တကယ်တမ်းကျရင်နည်းပါသေးတယ်
The provided loan, 100 billion kyats, is not enough nationwide. This amount accounted for $70 million. Under CERP plan, it is aimed to provide 1.5 billion or $2 billion. Some enterprises say the loan is not enough for them. Since the enterprises provided with loan have some kinds of benefit, we have to consider the possibilities of why some enterprises do not apply for the loan. If the reason is the small amount of loan, it is necessary to consider how much amount of loan can be increased to be effective and useful for the businesses. Moreover, the loan has to be paid back within a short time span. Over a year duration for loan is too short. Some may have problems in paying the loan back within 1 year. It is really important for the enterprises to get the necessary amount when they are in need.
Another thing is that the loan system does not intend for the new businesses which do not have 2 years of work experience. A lot of newly established SMEs are expecting to get the loan from the government. Managing Director of Mono Horizon Services Company Limited also spoke to MI Radio about his opinion.
ဒီတချို့ကုမ္ပဏီကြတော့အခု2နှစ်အတွင်းမှာဒီတစ်နှစ်ခွဲအတွင်းမှာလက်ရှိလုပ်နေတဲ့ကုမ္ပဏီ
There are also some companies which have already run for a year, and when this pandemic happened, they face many difficulties and problems. As they are the new ones in this sector, it is difficult for them to get loan like others. That's why in this year, SMEs are mostly affected by COVID-19, and most were forced to suspend the operations. Additionally, since we are applying for the amount we can pay back, we expect the government to provide to the fullest amount we apply if possible.
To solve this problem, the government has allowed the relevant association of SMEs to provide the loan to the enterprises as well. Although the loan is still not enough for all the businesses, the government is accelerating the efforts in every aspect in order to boost the economy again as fast as possible. The COVID-19 Economic Relief Plan CERP is developed and the relevant ministries are working within the specified schedules.
That's a report on COVID-19 loan to be provided to businesses for a second time. All around the world, the restrictions on controlling the COVID-19 spread are being eased bit by bit, together with the increasing rate for possible second wave infection. People seem to be careless about following the preventive health measures, along with the increasing possible rate of second wave infection. After such a long time of no locally transmitted case, the local transmission started to reappear on the 16th of August, with one new locally reported case, which is case number 375 from Sittway, Rakhine State, who has no travel history and no contact with the positive patients. Soyadana, Medana Mo, and Ning we have more.
All around the world, the restrictions on controlling the COVID-19 spread are being eased bit by bit, together with the increasing rates for possible second wave infections. Some people still find it difficult to follow the guidelines issued by the government because of their social and economic matters as a priority. People seem to be careless about following the preventive health measures along with the increasing possible rates of second wave infection. In Myanmar, the government imposed the restrictions on a public gathering of not more than 30 persons on 14th August, and the restrictions on international flights are still in effect till 31st August. After such a long time of no locally transmitted cases, the local transmission started to reappear on 16th August, with one new locally reported case, which is case 375 from Sittway, Rakhine State, who has no travel history and no contacts with positive patients. People's fear on the second wave infection has emerged again, with 5 more local transmissions from the same region, with case 375 as of 8 a.m. on 20th August. Dr. Tanaiso, Director of Health Knowledge Promotion Division from the Ministry of Health and Sports, said how the processes has been undertaken to prevent the second wave infection.
We were emphasizing for Rakhine State as there are illegal returnees through border gates. There were also some suspected illegal returnees that were under treatment. We also thought of what to do when the outbreak occurs there, and at that time, one local transmitted patient was found. It has been nearly 1 month when there are no reported cases in Rakhine State. We shouldn't stay careless as the infection rate becomes higher.
The case 375 is a bank staff from Sittway, and the contact tracing processes are still on the way to put the suspected patients into quarantine sites. People in that region are following the guidelines more carefully than before. U Wei-min, Rakhine State Development Affairs Minister, said how the processes are being carried out in the region to prevent the spread of the virus in the local community.
We will perform the lab tests from the people who had contacts with the COVID-19 positive patients. We are still carrying out the contact tracing processes to put them into facility quarantine. And then we are planning to raise public awareness about the infections. Currently, people who work at the bank where the case was found are put into hotel quarantine, and their family members are kept in facility quarantine. There is no exact information about newly reported cases, whether they had contact with the positive patients or not. We are still investigating for that.
Ni Kaintwe, a resident from Sittway, said.
In the early COVID-19 outbreak, the region was under good control and the people wore masks and followed the guidelines announced by the Ministry of Health and Sports as soon as the very first COVID-19 case was reported in Sittway. Later, the people seemed to be careless about the virus when the schools were reopened. The public places have been crowded once again. But now a new case was reported in Sittway who did not have travel history and a contact with positive patients, so people have started to worry about the disease. There is no official statement about this situation, and I think it needs to be handled systematically. There will be a lot of patients in the future if we are unable to handle this situation right away. As I'm a teacher, I have shut down my classes and I'm staying at home. I share awareness of the virus with my students through social media during this pandemic.
There are altogether 396 reported cases with 333 recoveries and 6 deaths, according to the data released from the Ministry of Health and Sports as of 8 a.m. on 20th August.
That's the report on fear for COVID-19 outbreak emerging again from Sittway resident. As part of e-commerce in China, the live streaming boom has become widespread among the consumers amid the COVID-19 closures and lockdowns. The live streaming provides an opportunity for the sellers to interact with the potential buyers without gathering and physical contact. That also helps the farmers and fisheries in poor regions to sell out their products amid COVID-19. Dora Suizin has more.
Globally, the consumer behaviors have changed with the emerging e-commerce. The e-commerce culture is boosted by the global pandemic COVID-19. Especially in Asian countries, most of the traditional retailers have to switch to e-commerce sales. One popular trend on e-commerce market is live streaming. Not only for gaming and entertainment, live streaming becomes an option but also for seeking new products and promotions. Live streaming is like television shopping, which is a real-time broadcast with presenters trying the products. Viewers can immediately purchase the item from an embedded link online. Especially in China, the live streaming boom has become widespread among the consumers amid the COVID-19 closures and lockdowns. The live streamers go through different streaming platforms, and online sales of physical commodities surged by about 30% during the period of the pandemic. During the holiday, the e-commerce live streaming sessions doubled. Masood Damu from CRI Myanmar Department of China Media Group added more information on it.
COVID-19 ကြောင့်ဖွံ့ဖြိုးလာတဲ့စီးပွားရေးကတော့ e-com သွယ်ရေးတွေဖြစ်ထွန်းတိုးတက်လာတယ်လို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်။ကိုဗစ်ကြောင့်ဒီခီးလဲချောင်းတွေပိတ်နေတဲ့ကာလမှာပေါ့နော်ကုန်ပစ္စည်းတွေကို online ကနေကြီးညာပြီးတော့ရောင်းချမှုတွေဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံနဲ့ခက်စားလာခဲ့တာတွေ့ရတယ်။ဒါဆိုကုန်ပစ္စည်းထုတ်လုပ်မှုတွေကိုအသွင်ပုံစံသစ်နဲ့ထုတ်လုပ်ပြီးတော့ digital စီးပွားရေးလုပ်ငန်းကိုတိုးမြင့်လှုပ်ဆောင်ဖို့ပေါ့နော်ကုန်ထုတ်လုပ်မှုအသွင်ပုံစံတွေပြောင်းလဲဆန်းသစ်ပြီးတော့လုပ်ကိုင်လာကြတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်။အထူးသဖြင့်တော့ဒီစင်းရဲတဲ့ဒေတာကစိုက်ပျိုးရေးကုန်ပစ္စည်းတွေကိုပေါ့နော်နာမည်ကြီး company တွေကနေဓာတ်ရိုက်ထုတ်လွှင့်ရောင်းချမှုတွေလုပ်ပေးတာကိုတွေ့ရတယ်။9နိုင်ကြာ stereo ဓာတ်ရိုက်ထုတ်လွှင့်မှုတစ်ခုပေါ့နော်အားပေးကြည့်ရှုတဲ့ပရိသတ်ကဆိုရင်ဘယ်လောက်ရှိလဲဆိုရင် 38.9 တန်းရှိခဲ့တယ်။နောက်ဘယ်လောက်ရောင်းရတယ်လဲဆိုရင်တော့စုစုပေါင်းရွှန်ပေါ့နော်17.29 တန်းအထိရောင်းချခဲ့ရတယ်လို့သိရပါတယ်။ဒါကတော့ဒီတရုတ်နိုင်ငံရဲ့ COVID-19 ကြောင့်ဖြစ်ထွန်းလာတဲ့ရောင်းဝယ်ရေးပုံစံသစ်လို့ပြောလို့ရပါတယ်ရှင်။
As agriculture and fishing industries have also suffered greatly, farmers and fisheries in northeastern China are turning to e-commerce and agro-technology to help make up for the losses. When many traditional retailers working on live streaming platforms, it becomes a developed as well as competitive market, and brands and products are promoted through a personalized approach. Not only the individual businesses, but also an increasing number of companies is marketing their products through live streaming platforms. The live streaming provides an opportunity for the sellers to interact with potential buyers, answer their questions, and show their products without having gathering or physical contacts. This boosts the economy during the outbreak of the global pandemic.
That's a report on China's booming live streaming platform helping economic recovery. That's all with the reports on Myanmar Today. Now let's move on to international news here on Myanmar Today. Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, on Wednesday visited Ma Anshan City in East China's Anhui Province. While visiting the Shuijiawa Ecological Park, Xi inspected the water situation at the Yangtze River, comprehensive renovation of waterfronts, as well as ecological and environmental protection and restoration. He also visited Magan Group of China Baowu Steel Group. In a workshop, he learned about the company's resumption of work, production, and operations. Mali President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta announced his resignation and dismissed the government and the cabinet in an address on state TV early on Wednesday, hours after being detained by mutinying soldiers.
If today it pleased some elements of our armed forces to conclude that it should end with their intervention, do I really have a choice? I submit to it because I do not wish any blood to be shed to keep me in power.
He made the announcement after he and the Prime Minister were detained by a group of mutinous soldiers Tuesday morning, and hundreds of anti-government protesters Celebrated in the capital Bamako, a protest movement has been growing with people blaming Keita for corruption and worsening security in parts of the country where Islamic militants are active.
The second round of nuclear disarmament talks between the United States and Russia ended in Vienna of Austria on Tuesday afternoon without any decisive progress. U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Arms Control said after the negotiations that there are some areas of convergence between Russia and the United States, but we do remain far apart on a number of key issues, reported the Austrian press agency APA. Natural catastrophes, which include bushfires and storms but exclude the coronavirus pandemic, have cost around $70 billion in the first half of 2020, according to two separate estimates. But costs are expected to rise higher, with monsoon flooding expected to continue, according to risk management firm Aon. Stephen Bowen, meteorologist and head of the Catastrophe Insight with Aon's, told CGTN that while the losses for the first 6 months of 2020 were centered around the United States and North America, bad weather has shifted several incidents to Asia Pacific, even as the seasonal monsoon began.
As you mentioned, the United States and North America really drove a significant portion of the economic and insured losses during the first 6 months of 2020. Typically, those perils, thunderstorm-related perils, tend to be largely covered by insurance. So in the U.S., wind-driven, hail-driven, those types of losses tend to be covered by your standard homeowners policy. And that really was the main driving force of the losses through the first 6 months of the year. Relatively speaking, the rest of the world had a slightly quieter year than the first half of the year than we typically have seen previously. Now, since that time, in July and into August, we have started to note a more significant shift in terms of economic costs across Asia Pacific, especially as the seasonal monsoon began. Losses in China, Japan, India, Bangladesh, those areas which have really been affected quite heavily by the monsoon flooding this year, they've seen tens of billions of dollars worth of damage thus far already. And unfortunately, it looks like that's going to continue over the next couple of weeks as that season continues. And as you mentioned in the lead up, we're also quite concerned about what could be happening in the Atlantic Ocean. We're beginning to transition to a La Nina phase, which typically means more activity across the Atlantic Basin. And if we do see a higher frequency of storms, that of course will then lead to a higher percentage of larger storms potentially hitting the United States or anywhere in North America. So it's been an expensive year thus far. Maybe not directly attributed to the pandemic, but that is certainly a big concern from a humanitarian perspective, trying to evacuate folks and ensuring that they're going to maintain safety if they're evacuating and congregating in the same areas. But it's been an expensive year thus far, and we certainly have quite a few months ahead of us that could also be expensive.
And that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining me on Myanmar Today. I am Aga Jo. Have a great day, everyone. Stay home, stay safe.